Dylan, Vance, and Lynda, it feels like every single week we have sat here and identified yet another instance of a repeat offender, and this certainly is an example of that.
Oh, this video made me crazy, and so many people are frustrated because you turn on the 6 o'clock news and you see a story or someone like this who's caught on tape.
Yeah.
For, the second or third occasion committing a crime, and then guess what? They often get bail.
In for an hour.
Yeah.
And then out.
It's the catch and
we're
release
like,
cycle.
What's wrong?
That the average person is going, what the heck is going on here? And we saw our new Premier, David Eby, came out with this new revised bail policy that was given to Crown prosecutors. And I thought, aha, he's going to force them to keep these people behind bars. But it turns out it's much more complicated than that. So we wanted to bring in someone who has spent several decades right on the front lines as a senior veteran Crown prosecutor. Wendy Stephen is director of the BC Crown Counsel Association. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
King's Counsel, not Queen's Counsel anymore, we should point out.
Yeah, exactly, which is all new. Thank you, King Charles.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, when people see this kind of video on the 6 o'clock news and they think, I think prosecutors and judges don't care about the average person and public safety is at risk. What is it we're missing? What is it we don't know?
Well, as you said in your introduction, it is a very complicated and multi-nuanced system. And it starts with the presumption of innocence. Every person who is charged, whether they've been arrested by the police, the Crown has looked at the evidence gathered by the police and laid a charge, they still are presumed innocent. So at bail, they're presumed innocent. And the criminal code is the one that sets out all the rules and laws of what the prosecutors, how prosecutors define their position and what decisions the judges make. And those rules are pieces of federal legislation, and they've been around for hundreds of years. Well, not hundreds of years, but in the common law, that sort of thing. So the presumption of innocence and the restraint says that people will be released on their promise to come to court and keep the peace and be of good behavior unless the Crown shows cause. That's the words of the criminal code, that there should be restrictive conditions or more serious bail up to and including detention. So that's where we start. And there's only 3 reasons that the judges can detain somebody or impose those restrictive conditions, and that is to ensure that they come to court, to provide protection to the safety of the public, which includes a substantial likelihood that they might commit a further offense, and the third is to maintain confidence in the administration of justice. So it can't just be, gee, this is going to be better for everybody. There has to be one of those specific reasons that the court must decide is important in this particular case. And in order to make those decisions, the Crown prosecutor will provide the court with the background of the case, the evidence that's available. It can be video, it can be eyewitnesses, it can be confessions, it can be forensics, it can be any number of things. The stronger the Crown case is, the more likely the bail conditions will be more onerous. And then you look at the person's background, their criminal record, if they have one.
That's the part that I'm curious about, is the criminal record piece. So if somebody, not referencing anything that we've shown here today, but at that moment of whether or not bail is being decided, whether that person will be trusted with release to appear later to address the alleged crime committed, would you at that moment, because we've heard stories of people who have 72 times they've been arrested or always for a similar instance, in that moment when bail is being considered, does all of that come into play, or is it just, okay?
Well, yes and no. Okay. Yes, it comes into play in the sense of when a person has been convicted, that information will be before the court. If there are outstanding charges, that information will become before the court. But if a person has been acquitted, if a person has been spoken to by the police about some previous incident, that will not necessarily come before the court, because those are what they call negative contacts with the police, but they're not charges and they're not convictions. Okay. So the bail system is based on what can be proven, not speculation, not guesswork, but what actually can be proven.
Nuance.
Now, let me ask you this, because we have Premier David Eby coming in with a 100-day plan, and bam, 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 he's announcing something every couple of days, it seems, and he comes out with this revised bail policy going to prosecutors specifically regarding prolific offenders. And I think a lot of us thought, wow, finally
Here it is.
prosecutors are going to start keeping these people behind bars. What does this revised bail policy actually mean?
Well, first of all, it's judges who make the decision about whether people stay behind bars or are released, not prosecutors.
Good note.
Prosecutors formulate a position and put forward a position to advocate for a certain position, but it's the judge that makes the ultimate decision. And the policy actually is specifically directed at repeat violent offenders.
Yeah.
So prolific offenders can be somebody who is a serial break-into-cars person. That wouldn't necessarily be caught by this new policy.
Oh, okay.
It's repeat violent offenders. So somebody who assaults somebody, somebody who pushes somebody, that kind of thing. And really, I've read the policy, and the policy is a recitation of the law, as I've just explained it to you in generalities.
Which means nothing changes.
No, but with a slightly different focus, a slightly different emphasis. And there's also another section of the criminal code that requires judges to show restraint in not just keeping people in jail because, whatever. So there's those. It's a balancing. It's a balancing
show restraint.
To show
That's
restraint.
written into the law.
That's written into the law. To show restraint in releasing people as soon as possible on the least onerous conditions, unless one of those things that I've talked about is
danger
required.
to the public, violence, etc.
Exactly.
So that's the part that that really gets me, and I know we've talked about this a lot as well with the stranger attacks, the rise of those, and finding out that some people who are taken into custody and put through the system are released back out after having been either caught in the act or tracked down. And don't want to be specific to any one thing, but there are a number of these that have made it through the headlines that pique us. That
yes,
wellness for the community.
And of course, every member of society is concerned about that.
Yes.
But what you have to wonder is, what exactly is the evidence in those cases? When it's just a stranger that's attacked, that's a traumatic thing for something that happened to somebody. They may not have any idea who the person is. They may not be able to identify the person. Unless somebody is able to identify who that person is, then there's not evidence against them. So that's more balancing that has to
Nuance
occur.
again, Wendy.
I know. And just very quickly, it's not like prosecutors are like, oh, we're just going to let everybody go. I mean, there are cases when someone who has no criminal record doesn't get bail.
That's right. It's all a big balancing act, trying to figure out what is the right decision in all of these particular circumstances. Prosecutors every day ask for detention, did before this new policy came into place, and will do so afterwards. People take their jobs very seriously and work very hard at trying to help the judge make the right decision. But judges are human too, and they're not given a crystal ball when they're appointed to the bench. And it's a human system.
It is so true. Thank you for everything you have done for several decades. We so appreciate your legal
Wendy back.
insight. Thank you so much.
Wendy, you got to come back. Cheers to you, and thank you for being a part of our
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much
Wendy
for being here.
Stephen, Director of BC Crown Counsel Association. Still ahead on Seal and Vance, we're talking online trolls. They're a problem right around the world, but in particular, they're a problem for female journalists right here in Canada. And we know about this firsthand, so
We do.
we're
going
talking
to talk
about
about it. We have opinions, Lynda Steele.